This is a prayer for a fresh, unremarkable day. A prayer to bring us to attention before the steadiness of the world. Sunrises and sunsets, back and forth, like the rocking of your grandmother's chair. Life coming and going, rising and falling, droning and beating like ancient music. And you, remarkable for your ordinariness within it, and you're thinking about it, and you're yearning for meaning. You, dependent, spun into the interdependent web of life, confined to a body. You, independent, conscious, free, and so sometimes also lonely, but unconfined in spirit. This is a prayer for you, for your well-being, your peace, your deep peace, and for everyone you love and their well-being, and for the friends we haven't met yet, for the strangers we'll never meet, though we're closer to them than we think. All of us in the arms of the earth, our mother, with her rocking and singing. These opening words from Angela Herrera welcome all those who have gathered on Zoom this morning to take part in our Sunday service. Welcome to regular members of the congregation, to friends and visitors with us today. Also those who might be listening in via the podcast or watching on our YouTube channel later on. For anyone who doesn't know me, my name's Jane Blackhall and I'm the ministry coordinator here with Kensington Unitarians, my spiritual home for the last 22 years. If anyone's here for the first time today, especially glad to have you with us. Welcome. Hope you find something of what you need this morning. Please do hang around afterwards for a chat or send us an email during the week if you'd like to introduce yourself. We have various small group gatherings during the week of various sorts. They're a good way to get to know people better and get a more rounded sense of what this congregation is all about. And to the regulars, thank you for all you do to welcome all those who come. We all play a part in co-creating this sacred space and this sense of beloved community. So whoever you are, however you are, whatever side of bed you got out of this morning, you're welcome here just as we find you. Feel free to do what you need to do to be comfortable. It is lovely to see your faces in the gallery, but we know for some it will feel more comfortable to keep your camera mostly off, or perhaps that's all your broadband is up to sustaining. It is fine. Do what you need to do to be at ease. There'll be opportunities to join in as we go along, but they're invitations, not compulsions. You can lurk quietly with our blessing. This morning's congregational service is titled Generations. Through readings and music, we'll reflect on what's handed on from each generation to the next, the sense of continuity and change perhaps as life flows on and human history flows forward. And we'll reflect on our own place in the unfolding cosmic story too. And we'll give a thought to the ongoing COP26 climate conference. We'll reflect on the responsibility we have in this pivotal moment to take radical action for the sake of the generations yet to come. Before we do anything else, I'm going to light our chalice, as we do each Sunday and at other times when we gather. It's a simple ritual that connects us with Unitarians and Unitarian Universalists the world over, and it reminds us of the historic and progressive religious tradition that's been handed down the generations to us. As I light this chalice, I'll share our chalice words, "We Carry the Flame" by Douglas Taylor. These were pre-recorded as a team effort by John, Maria, Kyra and Lucy, with Laurel Rose in a guest starring role, to symbolise this long line we're part of as we gather this morning, linking the generations in one common purpose.
Across the generations, we have carried the flame. We fought the injustice, sang the songs, spoke for truth, and built something lasting. We join in the line and we carry the flame forward.
Across the generations, we are tending the flame. Hand in hand together, we share in the work of fighting injustice, singing the songs, speaking the truth. And we are here to build something lasting. We join in the line and we carry the flame forward.
Across the generations, we have been nourished by this flame. We are singing new songs, breaking old barriers, sharing in the work. And as we find our own space in what has been, we're here to make space for the next person as well. We join in the line and we carry the flame forward.
Across the generations, this flame comes to us. We are here for the songs, for the justice, for the community sharing the work. We are here now too to build something new and lasting. We are ready for a new day together. We join in the line and we carry the flame forward.
Prayers are based on some words by Becky Edmiston Lange. You might first want to adjust your position to get more comfortable. You might want to close your eyes or soften your gaze, maybe look at the chalice flame. Perhaps there's a posture you can adopt that helps you feel more prayerful, whatever works. Whatever helps you get in the right state of body and mind for us to be fully present in this sacred time and space with ourselves, each other, and with that which is both within us and beyond us. Spirit of life, God of all love, in whom we live and move and have our being. As we turn our attention to the depths of this life, the cosmic mystery and wisdom that abides in all things, we tune into your holy presence within us and amongst us. mysterious force giving shape to life, miraculous source and river of being, help us to know who we are, to see our place in the history of earth and in the family of things. Help us to see that we are part of all that ever was. Our grandmother's prayers and our grandfather's dreamings, our mother's courage and our father's hope. In our bones lies the calcium of antediluvian creatures. In our veins courses the water of seas. We are part of all that ever was, born of the earth, riders on a cosmic ocean. We're not separate from nature. We are nature. Part of the same spirit that turned scales into feathers and birdsong into speech. We live by the sun, we move by the stars, we eat from the earth, we drink from the rain. Great Spirit, help us to know who we are and fill us with such love for this holy creation and gratitude for this awesome gift we call living, that we might claim our inheritance and live out our calling to bless the world and each other with our care. This day, let us especially hold the ongoing meetings of COP26 in our prayers. May these meetings be a positive turning point in the global fight against environmental destruction. May we at last choose to put planet and people before profit. Let us pray for the safety and well-being of all those communities most affected, most threatened by the unfolding climate crisis. Let us give thanks for the many protesters and campaigners speaking out for the good of the earth and all its creatures. And let us pray that the representatives and political leaders see their way to the radical changes we need to avert even greater catastrophe. And in a quiet moment, let us each look back over the week just gone, bringing to mind the cares and concerns of our own lives and those people and causes we most care about. Let's take a little while now to sit quietly in prayer with that which weighs on our hearts this day. And let's also take a moment to notice all the good that's happened in this past week. Bring to mind some of the blessings, small or large, that have graced our days. Let's take a little while to sit quietly in prayer with these good memories and give thanks. Spirit of life, God of all love, as this time of prayer draws to a close, we offer up our joys and concerns, our hopes and our fears, our beauty and our brokenness, and we call on you for insight, healing and renewal. As we look forward to the coming week, help us to live well each day and be our best selves, using our unique gifts in the service of love justice, and peace. Amen. Time for us to sing. Our first hymn is Gather the Spirit, performed by the Unitarian Music Society. Bit of an old favourite, this one, a song which celebrates our coming together in community, our sharing of life's trials and triumphs, and the oneness of all that is. The words will be on your screen, so you can sing along if you like, or you might prefer just to listen. We will do our best to make sure you all stay muted.
Ceaseless Flow of Life by Vanessa Rush Southern, adapted. I performed a memorial service for a man who died after a long illness. It was springtime, and all around us life was bursting at seams. Yet we gathered to honor the wintry sentiments of death and loss. According to the young man's wishes, we buried his ashes at the roots of a young tree. The tree made leafless would nourish the tree just hatched, weaving life to come and life past together. I thought of that same tree later when the women of our church gathered together in fellowship. We spent our first hour together in the spitting rain, gardening in the yard, sleeves rolled up, boots slick with mud. We mixed fresh topsoil and mulch and fertilizer with the old hard soil. Strange roots with no apparent purpose or source were ripped from the ground. Grubworms tucked carefully back under, and flowers laid gently into the beds. With our work done, we shed our soiled shoes at the door and marched in sock feet down to the kitchen to eat dinner and relax. It occurred to me as we sat there that we were doing what countless others had done countless times before in this church, that each generation of the community had spent days or nights in service and then gathered around the same table to share and laugh and revel in one another's company. It feels both strange and strangely comforting that although the faces change, the scenes remain quite constant. We seek the same solace as those who built our churches. The same is true for any institution that persists over time. If it is to survive within its walls and under its roof, and in all the virtual spaces where we gather too, there must be a ceaseless flow of life. The work and love of generations past always do lay the foundations for our own. Life to come and life gone before are woven gradually into the same garment. I know that there is much loss and change in life, yet despite it all, there is continuity and beauty that I cannot shake. I mean, though often forget, to give thanks for all that we have inherited and all the beauty in which we live and move and have our being, and for the ceaseless flow of life that moves through us and then beyond us into places not yet born.
Thanks, Juliet. We've come now to a time of meditation. Again, this is with the crucial work of the COP26 conference in mind. I'm going to offer a prayer for the earth and all its inhabitants. It's adapted from words by Vern Barnett, and they'll take us into a time of silent meditation. This prayer is perhaps a slightly longer piece than we'd usually use, a few minutes long, so settle in for that. Then there'll be a few moments of shared stillness during which we'll have our virtual chalice on the screen, and the silence will come to an end with a wonderful song, which in fact was the inspiration for today's service. We Are by Dr. Esai Barnwell of Sweet Honey and the Rock fame, and a virtual choir of Unitarian Universalists recorded for their General Assembly meeting last year. We did use it in one of our services last year, but it bears repeating at least once a year, I reckon. I love it. So again, let's each do what we need to do to get comfortable. Have a wiggle if you need to. Perhaps put your feet flat on the floor to ground and steady yourself. Maybe close your eyes for a little while. And as we always say, the words, the music, they're just an offering. Feel free to use this time to meditate in your own way. Spirit of life, God of all love, sometimes called grandfather, grandmother, Father Sky, Mother Earth, creator and source of all being. We gather to praise creation, to honor the swimmers and crawlers, the four-leggeds and the winged ones. We give thanks for the beauty and the glory of creation, and we open our hearts to understand our place in the universe in a new way. Not the center or the focus, but in a humble and balanced place, where every step we take may become a prayer, where every word we say makes harmony with the vast vibrating cosmos, where we know we're singing the song of life. We pray to know more deeply that we are in the garden where every plant and animal and speck of dust is a living prayer. Without our brothers and sisters, our cousins and nibblings of the plant and animal and mineral kingdom, the human family would end. So we want to bless them as they bless us. We pray for humility, not to humble ourselves before presidents or priests, before the ants and the trees. For if we cannot be in true relation to the ant, we shall be outcasts of the garden. Let us cast the pollution from our eyes so we can see the glory and live with true thanksgiving. Great Spirit, let us remember it's not how we talk, but how we walk. When we say we love animals, let us protect them. When we say that we love the plants, let us honor them by living lightly on the earth. When we say we love the minerals, let us use them only in necessity and remember their rightful places. Oil and coal belong in the ground now, not in the air through our wasteful machines. Wondrous trees breathing life in the atmosphere, your gifts of fire and shelter, fruit and seed are precious to us. And in many ways you offer us leaves of knowledge. May the vision of mutual interrelatedness, cosmic interdependence, the seamless process of generations, not end in cough-filled skies blotting the sun, but rather may clear air, healthy forests, wholesome water, expansive prairie and pungent earth nourish paths for all creatures through mountain and valley and the salt sea, and through a protective atmosphere, as we rejoice in the inhabitants. Hear and empower our call for a radical turning. May we collectively change our ways while we still can.
For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. Oh, for each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. Oh, for each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth, keepers of faith, makers of peace, and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are one.
The Clock by Elizabeth Tarbox. The clock arrived from England this week. It is an ornately carved table clock with a comforting tick that gently marks the quarter and half hours and noisily chimes the hours. It has an inscription which reads, "Presented to James Usher by the congregation of the parish church of Thornaby-on-Tees as a token of their appreciation of his 31 years of service to the parish, Easter 1905. James Usher was my husband's great-grandfather, but he died before Charles was born. James and Charles never met, but the clock has been a treasured possession of them both. The clock marked the hour of James's death and the birth of his great-grandson. It measured the passage of 2 world wars and has sustained several house moves. The clock was admired by little children who had to be lifted up to run their curious fingers over its mysterious carvings. Later, it watched as those children now grown to be beautiful young men and women dressed for their wedding days, and it watched them grow old. It is a rather fine clock, but that is not the reason why it is so welcome in our home. It is welcome because it has always been there. In its grain lies the memory of generations. In its crevices hides the dust of history. It is possible that this clock will stand on the sideboard in the homes of great-grandchildren we shall never live to meet. Its lines are as hard and exact as they ever were, while the lines on the faces of the people who take care of it grow deeper and more wrinkly. Why, oh why, should this object, beautiful though it is, live on when dear ones we have loved pass away? The clock is not alive as we are. That is why. The clock is condemned like the Flying Dutchman to survive generations, marking time without ever being able to participate in it. We are short-lived, but we can use time. We can be alive and busy, making, changing, and moving the world in the direction we want it to go. The clock may know things through its years of watching, but its wisdom cannot be passed along. Our structure is less perfect, less enduring, but our insight, should we acquire it, can be shaped and tested and offered to the next generation. The clock has come to us from a time we never knew, and it will move without us into an age we will have created, but will not experience. It reminds me that I had better hurry to do my part of the world's work.
Thanks, Janine. Just one more reading today. This is a slightly longer one, about 5 minutes, but it seems so very timely that I think it's worth it. It's called How Can We Be Good Ancestors? It's by Roman Krishnarik. He writes, "We are the inheritors of gifts from the past. Consider the immense legacy left by our ancestors, those who sowed the first seeds in Mesopotamia 10,000 years ago, those who cleared the land, built the waterways, and founded the cities where we now live, who made the scientific discoveries, won the political struggles, and created the great works of art that have been passed down to us. We seldom stop to think how they have transformed our lives, and most of their names have been forgotten by history. But among those who have been remembered is the medical researcher Jonas Salk. In 1955, after nearly a decade of painstaking experiments, Salk and his team developed the first successful and safe polio vaccine. It was an extraordinary breakthrough. At the time, polio paralysed or killed over 500,000 people worldwide every year. Salk was immediately hailed as a miracle worker, but he wasn't interested in fame and fortune. He never even sought to have the vaccine patented. His ambition was to be of some help to humankind and to leave a positive legacy for future generations, and there's no doubt he succeeded. In later years, Salk expressed his philosophy of life in a single question: are we being good ancestors? He believed that just as we have inherited so many riches from the past, we must also pass them on to our descendants. And he was convinced that in order to do so, and to confront global crises such as humanity's destruction of the natural world, we needed a radical shift in our temporal perspective towards one that was far more focused on long-term thinking and the consequences of actions beyond our own lifetimes. Rather than thinking on a scale of days and months, we should extend our time horizons to encompass decades, centuries, millennia. Only then would we be able to truly respect and honour the generations to come. Salk's question may even turn out to be his greatest contribution to history. Rendered in a more active form, how can we be good ancestors? I consider it the most important question of our time, and one that offers hope for the continued evolution of human civilization. It calls on us to consider how we will be judged by future generations and whether we will leave behind a legacy that benefits or cripples them. Being a good ancestor is a formidable task, and our chances of doing so will be determined by the outcome of a struggle currently taking place on a global scale between the opposing forces of short-term and long-term thinking. The need for long-term thinking is a matter of utmost urgency. Back in 2018, David Attenborough addressed world leaders at a UN climate conference, and of course he's done the same just this week. Back then he said, "Right now we're facing a man-made disaster of global scale, our greatest threat in thousands of years, climate change. If we don't take action, the collapse of our civilizations and the extinction of much of the natural world is on the horizon. What happens now and in the next few years will profoundly affect the next few thousand years." Such statements should put us on red alert, but they often fail to convey who exactly will bear the consequence of our temporal myopia. The answer is not just our own children and grandchildren, but billions of human beings who will be born in the centuries ahead and who far outnumber everyone alive today. The moment's come, especially for those of us living in wealthier nations, to recognize the disturbing truth that we have colonized the future. We treat the future like a distant outpost devoid of people, where we can freely dump ecological degradation, technological risk, nuclear waste, and which we can plunder as we please. There's a real possibility that humankind will not wake from its short-termist slumber until some extreme cataclysm takes place, and by then it may be too late to alter our course from the same self-destructive fate as the Roman Empire and the Mayans. But the prospect of civilizational breakdown is far from inevitable, especially if we harness the power of collective action to forge radical change. The first lesson history teaches is that nothing is inevitable until it happens. We should acknowledge that future generations would never forgive us if we gave up while there was still the possibility of change, no matter the odds. We must hear their voices in our dreams and heed them in our decisions. The path of the good ancestor lies before us. It's our choice whether or not to take it. Words by Roman Krznaric on how to be a good ancestor. It's our third and final reading this morning. One more hymn. Let's sing together again. This is Forward Through the Ages, sung by the Unitarian Music Society. It's quite a traditional stirring tune to send us off purposefully into the rest of our week. The words remind us once again of the long chain of faithful spirits that each of us here today is a part of, as we play our own part, whatever that might be, in creating a better world for future generations. Feel free to sing along or just listen as you please.
Forward through the
Some announcements now, slightly more announcements than usual, bear with me. Thank you to Maria for co-hosting today. Thank you to Juliet and Janine for reading, and for everyone involved in the chalice lighting. Thanks to Sandra, we delved into the archive for her lovely piano pieces this morning, and to Dr. Isay Barnwell and the UA Choir for the wonderful meditation music. Don't forget, we'll have virtual coffee time after the service to just chat in small groups if you'd like. If that's not your thing, do get in touch via email. It is a bit harder to get to know people while we're online. If you can bear it, we like to take a group photo after the closing music, so stick around for that. And we'll be back next week on Zoom at 10 when Sarah will be leading our Remembrance Sunday service. Feel free to share that link with your friends. As ever, there are various opportunities to connect with the congregation in the coming days. Coffee morning at 10:30 on Tuesday, always quirky conversation, newcomers welcome. Heart and Soul, our regular contemplative spiritual gathering, will be tonight at 7 and Friday on the theme of companionship. That's with me. If you've never been before, not too late to start. Feel free to ask me if you have any questions. We've got some in-person events coming up. Next Saturday morning, there will be a small group spiritual gathering at the church led by Sarah. I think it's on coziness. If you want to go to that, please email Sarah to book. Her contact details are in the Friday email. Places will be limited, and we're asking everyone to continue observing COVID-safe protocols in the building, wearing masks at all times. In a couple of weeks, there'll be another Getting to Know You walk. That's at 2 o'clock on Sunday the 21st, organised by Carolyn Appleby. I think that's going to be in Kensington Gardens. I'll give you more details next week. Carolyn is a hardy soul, and she tells me this is going to be a whatever the weather walk, so wrap up appropriately. Looking a bit further ahead, we're looking for people to be involved in a virtual choir singing Christmas carols that we'll include in our Christmas Eve service. You do not have to be a brilliant or professional singer. The idea is that this is a community sing-along, the more the merrier. If you want to be involved in that, please get in touch and I'll send out instructions during the next couple of weeks. All you need to do is video yourself singing a few well-known carols. We'll send you the words and some guide tracks to sing along to. And then me and Marilisa will do the technological wizardry to put them all together. We can coach you. So drop me an email if you want to be part of that. And looking even further ahead, in the new year, I'm planning to run a How to Be a Unitarian course, which is a kind of introduction to the community and the denomination and the spiritual life of being a Unitarian is in various ways. Several of you will have been to that before. It's fine to come again. I'm trying to decide how frequently to run it and what night or day or weekend to run it on. So if you've got any interest in that at all, let me know, and let me know your preferred scheduling so that I can take that into account in the planning. I think that's all the announcements. The congregation very much has a life beyond Sunday mornings. We encourage you to keep in touch and look after each other during the week. Preparations are frantically going on behind the scenes to move towards hybrid Sunday services. We do appreciate your patience as we're working on that. There's a lot of technology and volunteer effort to get in place to make that happen and do a proper job. It does take time and person power, but we are getting there and we'll keep you posted. I'm crossing everything for a first hybrid service in December. Phew. We've just got our closing words and closing music now. So I invite you once again to select gallery view at this point so we can all see each other and get a sense of our gathered community as we close. We walk this earth but a brief moment in time. Amid our suffering and our struggles, let us remember how to celebrate life. Let us continue to grow in our capacity to love ourselves and each other. And let us each do our bit to co-create a just and peaceful world community and a flourishing planet as custodians for the generations yet to come. As we depart, may we go our separate ways with a renewed spirit of hope and purpose, and with the wisdom we need to greet the week ahead. Amen.